Satan walks among us, in the sea of the unsuspecting, inspiring chaos in the streets and division among the people. He rules from the highest positions of government offices. He walks among the front lines in lands foreign and domestic, looking patriotism in the eye. And in places where we feel safe from the outside world, he dwells, bringing deceit and disorder in our daily lives.
I received 3 calls. One came from a lady who was living in a house for 17 years, tormented every night, dragged out of bed. Everyday life was just hard to get through.
Yes.
No one understood her. No one else experienced what she was going through. She lived in a house full of people. Another call came from a man who was an elderly gentleman, and he'd gone through his life, just a life of misfortune. Troubles with his wife. His kids were stealing from him.
Right.
A lot of bad things happening in life, and strange things happening in his house that really seemed to make him question,
Yes.
was he going senile, or
Right.
were these things actually happening?
Right.
And another gentleman, the third call, he recently moved into this house, and ever since then, everything had been turned against him, from the neighbors calling him out and causing him problems,
Yeah.
strange sounds happening throughout the house that kept him awake at night.
Right.
All 3 of these people, we go out to their houses and we investigate, and we determine that they're going to benefit by a couple of different things. First and foremost, being a house blessing,
Yes.
and what we would call a house cleansing,
Right.
where we go in there to confront any demons that may be in there. Because these things that are causing them, that are bringing them down, causing conflict in their everyday life, are not normal spirits.
No.
They are the minions of the devil that are
Yes,
sent
they are.
there to cause these people to question their sanity, to isolate them and target them,
Right.
separate them from their family and friends, and wreak havoc on their everyday life.
Yes.
We did the house cleansings.
Mm-hmm.
Case 1, the woman, 17 years in this haunted house, was a
Yeah.
Christian and was accepting of this house cleansing and accepting of the fact that after this house cleansing is done, I need to carry on with my
Continue
Christian
with it,
ways.
yes.
I need to keep bringing myself closer to God
Right.
and allowing less space for these demonic entities to interfere in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Person number 2, the elderly gentleman, he remembers church from when he was young.
Yes.
But he asked questions.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be saved? What does it mean
Right.
to have Jesus? How can I get this help?
Mm-hmm.
Person number 3, we did the house cleansing. And a couple months later, after it working, he got some activity
Right.
and decided to reach out to the Edgar Cayce Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Person number 1, 17 years in the haunted house, had not experienced the nth of activity since this house cleansing.
Yeah. That's right.
Person number 2, the elderly gentleman, we worked with him for 3 years.
Yeah.
And gradually, as he strengthened that relationship with God and worked with us,
Right.
worked with bringing methods to bring himself closer and to fight this entity,
Mm-hmm.
has gotten to the point where he can pretty much live comfortably in his
Right.
house, not have
Exactly.
these little things go on, and be at peace.
Yes.
Person number 3 is still experiencing activity.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between the 3? The one was a Christian
Mm-hmm.
and realized there was distance between me and God, and I need to close that gap and push the evil out.
Yeah.
Person number 2 was willing to work with us and to seek counseling on how to become saved, how to fill his life with God and push out the evil.
Right.
Person number 3 heard us, saw that this worked, and because it didn't work permanently, decided to seek another method outside of the realm of
Yeah.
Christianity. And that is the only person that's still having problems in their house.
Right. Right. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's you can tell people that you have to form a relationship with God. You have to start to become closer to God in many different ways, in many different aspects of your life. But if you don't actually do that, if you try to find some other method, if you try to go to sage or one of these other types of methods for cleansing your house, it may not be a permanent fix. You may be putting a Band-Aid on a huge wound here that needs
Absolutely.
stitches. The wound that you have, it needs the stitches. It needs God stitches. But, you're trying to put a Band-Aid over it.
One step forward, two steps back.
Right.
So the theme of this whole little talk here today,
Mm-hmm.
the battle is yours.
Right.
No one else can fight it for you.
Yes.
And this battle is something that needs to be fought. You may not even realize
Mm-hmm.
that it needs to be fought.
Absolutely.
You may not even think for an nth of a second that there is something paranormal at work.
Right. Right.
But in our lives, in our everyday lives, there are things that go wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
Things that
Absolutely.
happen that cause us turmoil.
Right.
And it's not to the
Yes.
point where somebody's full on possessed and their head's spinning
No,
and they're
it
doing
can
all
be
this crazy
a
stuff.
small amount of turmoil.
Small
Yeah.
amount of turmoil.
Right.
So what are some ways that the devil can work in your life?
I think there's a lot of ways. I think there's a lot of simple things like, your car breaking down all the time, or, your family's kind of relationship with each other. Satan can come in and actually manipulate people's feelings and manipulate people's emotions to work against you. Your family can turn against you in certain ways. Your job. He will find any method that he can, even the smallest, most minute method that you don't really anticipate, because you think, okay, if this is Satan, he's going to do something major, right? No.
Right.
He's not going to do something major. He's going to do something small in your life. He's going to do a bunch of little small things that are actually going to drive you nuts. You know what I mean?
A string of bad luck.
A string of bad luck is one of those things. Illnesses, small illnesses and things that may not be a huge illness. It may be something actually small, like just a cold, something that's just going to wear you down. That's just going to take away a little bit of your energy, a little bit of that energy that you could put towards something good. He's going to take that away from you by giving you just a little bit of a cold or a sickness that's going to wear you down.
Yes.
So many different ways.
A string of bad luck.
Right.
And I like to relate it to this when we're talking about Satan. If it's pouring rain outside, I can comfortably walk out in the rain and get soaking wet.
Absolutely.
But if there's a single drop that keeps falling,
yes.
if I stand under that single drop, it's going to drive me nuts.
It is.
At first, okay, it's
Yeah.
a drop on my head. But several hundreds of drops are just going to make me go insane. And
Yeah,
that's how this
right.
works here, okay? It's things you got to look at. I challenge you to step back and analyze your life over the past month.
Right.
If you look at the things that have gone wrong, we want to focus on the positive. We always do.
Sure.
But we don't want to ignore the negative. Because if we ignore it, that gives him the camouflage that he needs
Yes.
to move about our lives.
Absolutely.
We want to question, why did this happen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And some of us step back and say, why would God let this happen?
Right.
Why would God do this to me?
Right.
God does not put us in the situation that
No,
we're in.
Not at all.
God does not even let things happen to us.
No.
God gave us free will.
Exactly.
And what man chose to do with that free will has cursed generations and generations.
Yes.
The sins of the father are often paid by the son.
Right.
And this goes back, all the way back, to the beginning of mankind, to the first sin. We don't necessarily have to look within ourselves and post blame within ourselves. We're
Right.
not looking to post blame. What did I do to deserve this?
Yes.
But we're looking to say, what didn't I do
Mm-hmm.
to deserve this? Okay. Was there a moment that maybe I should have prayed a little more?
Right.
A chance that I wasn't doing anything else, and I should have maybe taken a chance just to thank God
Yes.
for the blessings that He's given me.
Mm-hmm.
And in a life and in a world where there's so much turmoil nowadays, it's hard to find the blessings and things.
It is.
But when we find those blessings, we may take COVID for example. It's wreaked havoc on this world.
It has, yes.
But to find the good, the least bit of good for some of us,
Right.
maybe it's given us more time with our families,
Family, yes.
time to get closer with our families,
Mm-hmm.
to spend more time with them.
Right.
Satan does not like us giving thanks to God.
Right.
He likes us to blame God. He likes us to look at the turmoil that's going on in our lives. The time we got up in the middle of the night to take a leak and we stubbed our toe on the bed, on the frame of the bed.
Yeah.
Why did God let that happen?
Yeah.
That's what Satan wants us to do, is blame God.
Right.
But God is not to blame.
No.
Satan is to blame.
Absolutely.
And the closer we come to him, the more we push out Satan. The less room there is for Satan to live.
Yes.
The more light we have in our life, the less darkness there is.
Absolutely.
And darkness are what these things feed upon.
It absolutely is. They feed upon the darkness. They feed upon the negative energy that people put out in their lives, whether they realize they're putting out that energy or not. It can be something as simple as a little family tiff, a tiff between a husband and a wife that just kind of causes this little bit of turmoil that it's going to feed upon. It's going to feed upon the negative feelings that you have towards your boss, towards your, somebody that you're driving down the road. You can drive down the road and encounter people every day who drive like idiots. Let's be honest. And it can be those people out there who Satan puts in your path to sort of give you these negative feelings, because he knows that it's going to piss you off,
Right.
If somebody comes and cuts you off, right when you're in traffic, when you're in a hurry, trying to get to work, you're late,
You have that ember, that burning ember,
right.
and he's going to come and blow on it until it turns
Yes.
into a flame.
That's exactly right.
And then once it turns into a flame, he's going to start throwing twigs on there, and then
twigs
start
on-
throwing
yeah.
logs on there.
Yeah,
Little problems adding up to bigger problems.
right.
Apartments are often haunted.
They are.
And it's a strange thing. These hauntings that are in apartments are not often what we would consider, if you believe in that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're open to the possibilities of a million things here.
Yes.
But if you believe in human spirits, apartments don't usually seem to be human spirits. It usually seems to be something a lot
Right.
more malevolent.
Yeah.
And one thing to consider is someone may not have died in an apartment,
Mm-hmm.
but there may have been a couple in there that argued constantly before you
Yes.
were in there.
Bad energy.
This energy attracts these evil spirits. They wander about in the darkness until
That's
they
right.
find a home.
Yeah.
And this is a home for them.
Absolutely.
And they could very well linger behind after those people leave. If those people find a way to shake them off,
Mm-hmm.
they could very well be in that apartment,
Absolutely.
waiting for the next person to move in that they can leech onto
Mm-hmm.
and drain them. Drain
That's
who they
exactly
are.
Right. Yeah. Apartments are particularly bad. I know we've talked about before with, trying to cleanse the apartment,
Mhm.
because apartments are often interconnected. You have these apartments where one fades into the next, into the next, into the next. There's all these adjoining interior walls in an apartment, and something negative can pass between those walls very easily. So when you're trying to cleanse an apartment, you're trying to push out whatever is negative within that one apartment, but you don't know if it's come from the adjoining apartment. Could it be something that somebody did in this apartment? So could it be that the energy that was within this apartment at one time was one of those like really severe negative energies that drew something there?
Right.
And if it's something there, it's going to hop about. It's going to go from place to place to place until it finds the prey, the right prey,
Mhm.
and the one that it feels that it can really feed off of the most.
Now, you may be somebody who is a devout Christian
Mm-hmm.
and say, well, these evil spirits could never manifest in me, could
Right.
never control me in any way.
You're wrong.
Well, you may be,
But
but
you're wrong.
you may be right. Perhaps you are strong enough,
Yeah.
and you are the kind of Christian that none of them can attach to. Here's where you got to look out.
Mm-hmm.
We've had cases where they've worked through other people to try to get to you.
Right.
Okay. We've had cases where there was somebody that was such a Christian that perhaps these demons didn't feel that there was any point to attacking this guy because they didn't feel they could take him over. So what they
Yes.
started doing is working through people around him that they
Yeah.
could get to,
Yes.
and tried to do that to weaken his faith,
Mm-hmm.
to weaken him. They
Yeah.
tried to get girlfriends to break up with him, and people to respond
Right.
negatively to him, to try to start fights with him,
Yes.
which he wasn't having. He would never give in to it,
Yeah.
so they could never get into him. But they will do that. They will not only attack
Yeah.
you, they'll attack those around you
Absolutely.
to try to get to you because they want to
Yes.
get to that bigger prize.
Yeah, and I think the point, one of the points here that is very important is that demons are very, very intelligent. Satan is very intelligent. He is one of those beings that he may be more intelligent than you. He may be more intelligent than me, and more intelligent than many people out there. He will sit there and wait patiently and watch and see what your weaknesses are.
Right.
And he will prey upon those weaknesses. And I think a lot of people don't actually realize that. A lot of
No.
people think that, okay, Satan, the horns and the bull nose and whatever, they think that this guy is just some normal average guy out there who happens to look a little different than what we do. But the fact of the matter is that Satan can be extremely, extremely intelligent. And he can find ways to manipulate people, to manipulate situations. And the thing that I liken this to myself is that a lot of people have, like me, I was raised in a very good, very Christian household, right? I had good morals and good values instilled in me. When I grew up, I could not really truly comprehend the way that people worked, the way their minds worked, who were, people that were not Christians, people that had other intentions, bad intentions in mind. And when somebody came into my life like that, I just couldn't really wrap my head around the fact that this person could actually think that way. As I've gotten older, it's getting a little bit easier. It's gotten a little bit easier to understand how somebody can manipulate you and control you and just steer you down the right path that they want you to go down. And that is exactly what Satan does. You have to kind of comprehend that this is something that is manipulating you. He's going to do whatever he can to make you go down the path that he wants you to go down. And recognizing that you're being manipulated is the first big challenge, really.
Right. It really is. It really is. You got to step back in everything you do and ask yourself, is this really what I should be doing?
Right.
Is this the place I should be in right now?
Yes.
And if it's not, how do I get out of it?
Absolutely.
And if you don't have the answers, open up your heart to God.
Right.
Pray.
Yeah.
And the answers may not be immediate, but I promise you'll find yourself in a better place before the end.
Right.
The devil's ultimate goal is destruction.
It is.
These demons, their ultimate goal is destruction.
Yeah.
They want to break this person down. They want to kill this person.
They do.
They want to take this person's soul.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make sure that you do not spend eternity in heaven. And if you step back and ask yourself, where am I going to spend eternity?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need to do to make sure I'm in the right place?
Right.
Open your heart.
Yes.
Open your heart is the first step.
Absolutely.
And make sure when you receive answers, the answers make sense to you.
Right.
Because voices, certain things that happen, can lead you down the wrong path.
Absolutely.
Compare it to the Bible. Is this where I'm supposed to be? Is this biblically sound?
Mm-hmm.
Is this where I want my life to go, the direction I want my life to go?
That's exactly
You
right.
got to look at that stuff.
You know, the Bible really should be a beacon in people's life. You know, they really should be able to look to the Bible and say, is this something that is in line with what the Bible teaches me? Or is it out of line with what the Bible teaches me? It's the same thing with prophets. You know, they say nowadays there are a great many false prophets
Yes.
that are going to come in the end times and are going to speak false hope into people's lives. And the way to identify these false prophets is by actually looking at what they're saying, the information that they're giving forth, and comparing that to what the Bible says. Is this exactly biblically sound? Is this exactly what God teaches in the Bible? And if it's not, then you know for sure that this is something that is a false prophet. This is a person that is meant to lead you astray. It's the same thing with the devil. It's the same thing with Satan. You've got to look at those things that are, you know, that they say are from the Bible. You got to look at them and say, hey, is this actually from the Bible? Find the sources, do your own little bit of research, and decide for yourself if this is something that is biblically sound.
Absolutely. Let the Bible be a light unto your path.
Right.
Literally, let that guide your path.
Yes.
There will also be false spirits
Right.
that come through, and we've touched on this before, where someone thinks the spirit of a loved one is talking to them. Everything they're saying is beautiful. They don't find any evil in it. But gradually, the things that this spirit is telling them starts to change.
Yes.
And it turns out that it's not a spirit of a loved one. It's not the spirit of a little child who passed away. It's actually something a lot more evil that is working its way into their lives,
Right.
gaining trust, telling them things that seem good at first, and then gradually, without them even knowing, curving them around back towards Satan.
Back towards Satan.
And that is one place that you do not want to go.
No, absolutely. And there's a great many cases where we kind of, you know, suspect that maybe that's the case. I know we've been out to a great many cases where people have said, well, we've got this one thing telling us that it is, you know, my grandfather up in heaven. He's communicating with us through YouTube or whatever the case is. But then at the same time, they claim to have seen their daughter walking around in the house, and they said they went after her to try to figure out why she was still awake, what she was not doing in bed, and then when they went after her, they found her actually in bed, fast asleep. So they knew that whatever they had seen was not actually their daughter. It was something else. And that's the one thing, these people were smart enough to say, hey, there's something wrong here. You know, I know that we're being told this is our grandfather coming through the YouTube channel and saying that, yes, heaven is real, God is real, it's wonderful. He says all of these wonderful things, but at the same time, you've got this one incident that makes me question. And that's what people really need to pay attention to, is the small details. Because it can be those small details that pull you out of that idea of, you know, hey, this is something wonderful and something good, and make you think, hey, maybe there's something more at work here. Maybe it's not necessarily the ideal spirit or the ideal situation, but necessarily maybe something a little more sinister at work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Satan does indeed walk among us.
He does.
And Christianity, as we know it, is under attack.
It is.
This COVID, it's keeping people in their houses. It's keeping them out of church.
Yes.
It's keeping the spirit from flowing and from Christians from being able to have a means to talk out as they're somewhat trapped in their houses.
Preventing fellowship.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So this is definitely something to be alert of. Be alert of the little things that go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Give thanks to God for the things that go right.
Yes.
And ask for His guidance. Ask for His light on your path.
Right.
Because He will give it to you and He will deliver you from this. And the only thing, the ultimate thing from keeping these things from happening in your life is to bring light into the darkness.
Right.
Because darkness can't be where light is.
Yes, that's absolutely true. It cannot exist where light is. And If you try to apply yourself to God, or you try to form your relationship with Him as much as you can, you try to be as close to Him as you possibly can. A lot of people don't realize that God is not this just sort of, particles of matter up in the sky or up in the heavens that are untouchable. God is actually, all around us all the time. God is one of those spirits that knows exactly what you're doing, where you're going, how you're behaving, why you're behaving that way. There's nothing that you can hide from Him. So there's really no reason in the world why you can't form a good relationship with God, because He knows your innermost thoughts.
Absolutely.
He knows your innermost feelings, right? I know that myself, I as a person, I've always been a little bit of a loner, okay? I've always been one of those people that I didn't identify with a lot of people on the outside world. I'm not exceptionally social. And the reason being because I was raised a lot different. I was raised with the Spirit of God in our house. And as I've gotten older, I've realized that when, most people may be alone in their houses and they may feel that little twinge of loneliness, instead of dwelling upon that loneliness and letting it turn into despair and depression and anxiety and things of that nature, I've been able to turn to God because I know that He's always there.
Mm-hmm.
He's always there. And even if I'm completely alone in the house, I know that God is there and that I can speak to Him and that I will receive answers if I open my heart and open my mind to Him and am able to receive those answers. A lot of people are home alone in their houses right now because of COVID-19, because of the coronavirus.
Right.
A lot of people are finding themselves in a depressive state, and it's very sad because they don't realize that you are never alone. And that's what Satan wants you to believe, is that you are alone, you're in your house. I'm going to cause all of this depression and anxiety and all of these problems, these feelings of loneliness in you right now by doing this one simple, act of creating this virus. And people are not alone. You're never alone. It doesn't matter if you're not able to go to church when you normally go to church. There's always church online. There's always church fellowships that you can find online. If nothing else, that you can speak to God. He's always there.
Absolutely. And that's the exact thing for those of you that may be interested and may not even know where to start.
Right.
Okay, the first start is seek.
Yes.
The first thing is seek. And just open your heart, pray a prayer.
Right.
God, let me find you.
Yes.
Shine your light on my path. That's the big thing. Shine your light. And go from there.
Right.
Seek the answers.
Yep.
Open your heart. Open your mind.
He will show you a way.
He will show you the way. Doesn't matter what you've done or who you are.
No, it really doesn't, because He answers the prayers of the people who are righteous and who are unrighteous. He's always there listening. Of course, people who are a little bit more righteous, a little closer to God, He may hear your prayers a little bit louder than the others, but that doesn't mean He doesn't hear the prayers of the unrighteous.
If He sees what you do wrong,
yes,
He hears when you talk to Him.
Yeah. There is the parable that I always find interesting, and this is kind of one thing that people need to keep in mind nowadays. Jesus said that there was a man who had 2 sons, and one of the sons was a very good son. He was always tentative, always obedient. The other son was not quite so good. And the other son said, hey, cut out my portion of the inheritance and let me go out into the world and seek my way. And the father did that. He cut out his portion of the inheritance and said, here, go about your way and see what you can find. Well, he went out, he squandered his inheritance, right? He failed at life. He came back to his father's house and begged and pleaded for his forgiveness. Now, the father said that the son who had gone out and squandered his inheritance needed the attention or the love even more so than the one who was more obedient. And the reason being, because the one who had gone out and into the wilderness, let's say, and who had wandered about for many years and who had returned to his father, was almost more important than the one who had always been obedient, right? So if you're one of those people who's out there who's wandering in the wilderness, you don't know your way, you don't know, you're lost, you feel lonely, there is a way back. Okay? It's not like this is some lost situation where you are stuck in. Okay? God is going to look at you and say, I want you back. I want you back to me. I want you back to, in my heart, in my soul. I want you to be a piece of my life as much as I want to be a piece of yours. And there's no reason at all, nothing that you have ever done in your life will prevent you from being close to God again if you seek to be. All you have to do is throw that little line out there. It's like fishing. Just cast that line out there and, cast it out there and see what you can reel in. And you will definitely reel in the love of God.
That's right. Knock and the door will be open.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Should we say anything to wrap it up or what?
I guess we could. Why do you think that thing keeps turning off like that? I keep keeps
Do
drawing
with the
attention.
temperature thing.
Oh, is it temperature?
Probably.
Yeah, we should say something to wrap it up.
Okay, what do you want to say?
So I guess the whole premise of this here is that we want you to understand that you are not alone. We want you to understand that no matter what station you are in life, what situation you are in life, there is always a way for you to come back to God. Perhaps you're one of those people who's not far from God at all, and you just need a little bit of urgency, a little bit of prodding and poking to get you back in the right direction. We can help you. We can lead you in that right direction. Perhaps you're one of those people who feels like they are so far from what is good and what is right in the world that you don't know your way back. And if that's the case, we can still help you. Like, we can still help lead you back in the right direction. Nobody is so lost in their lives that there is not a way back to God. And it's very important to realize that. You may think, well, you don't understand what I've been through. You don't understand what I've done in my life. Yes, we do understand what you've been through and what you've been in your life. We understand that people can be the worst, most hateful people, and understand that what they've done is wrong. And still, if you understand that what you've done is wrong, it's just a step in the right direction by itself. So don't ever think that there's something that can keep you so far from God that you can't return to Him.
Absolutely. And also, remember, these things that we talked about, the devil is there.
Yes.
He's waiting. He's waiting. On one side, you have the devil that's waiting.
Right.
And on the other side, you have God that's waiting.
Yes.
These bad things are just a small token of what the devil has in store.
That's exactly right.
Turn from him. Close up that gap.
Yes.
Fight him. He is there. He is real.
Yeah.
He does walk among us. Until next time, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Linda.
And thank you for watching.